Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. I know it's been quite some time since you guys have last seen a video, and I kind of apologize for that, but I've kind of just been taking a break myself. Hasn't been much to make content on anyways, so just thought I'd take a break. But anyways, we are back today with the long-term review of my 2019 Hyundai Elantra GT N-Line. So here at 18 months with about 8,000 miles, let's go ahead and dive into the long-term review of my 2019 Hyundai Elantra GT N-Line with the dual clutch. So before we begin the driving section of this video, I'd kind of just want to start here on the exterior because there are one or two things I want to mention that are kind of applicable to this long-term review. But anyways, like I said, this is my 2019 Hyundai Elantra GT N-Line in Summit Gray with the dual clutch. This does not have the tech package for anybody wondering what spec this car is. I'm sure you guys know exactly what spec this is, so there's not too much to dwell on there. But one thing I want to mention in terms of my long-term review of this car is here with the brake calipers. Now, my last Elantra GT did this too, but this one did it much quicker than that car did, and that is all the rust that starts to form and the finish starts wearing off on the calipers. But this was pretty much there when I bought the car, just kind of like a very faint rust mark, but over the last 18 months it has clearly gotten worse to the point where it looks awful. As you can see, the silver finish and everything is not good either. But yeah, this is definitely bugs the crap out of me, and whatever hardware they use in the brake pads and components like that definitely starts to wear really quickly and starts to rust. Not to mention the rotors are starting to look really bad now too. But the fronts, they look decent. I don't use any sort of harsh cleaners or anything like that on these, so in my opinion they rust really quick, and that's one thing I don't like about this car. The other side looks better than this side, but that is by far the worst one. I will be painting the calipers either when I switch the wheels and tires out for winters this upcoming fall or next spring for sure, if I don't get around to it this year. The second thing I want to mention here on the exterior is obviously I hit the possum December of last year, I believe it was, and I still have not gotten the bumper fixed. And as you can see, it's actually popping out quite a bit today. But yes, that is something that I really should get fixed, but it honestly doesn't look terrible when you're 10 feet away or so. But I'm kind of just waiting to get that fixed. Not sure what reason, other than I know the paint match is probably not going to be as good as it is from the factory between the bumper and the hood, or the bumper and the fenders. So that's one of the reasons I am waiting to do that as well. And the last thing I want to mention that I've kind of experienced with this car over the last 18 months has to do with the interior. So, diving in here on the interior of the car, I think I put a post about this out on the Facebook group, but I can't quite remember if I did or not. But anyways, the electronic parking brake, more specifically the auto hold button in my car, down here in the center console, that actually got stuck down. And I kind of talked to the dealership when they repaired it about 6 weeks ago or so, and they said they think it was just a faulty button. But anyways, it got stuck down. They didn't really know why it got stuck down. I have no idea why it got stuck down. I hardly use it other than in drive-thrus. But one day, I must have used it in a drive-thru, and the next day I heard the parking brake, the electronic calipers in the back, actuating when I turn the car off. And usually it only does that if the auto hold is activated. When you turn the car off, it'll automatically run the rear calipers. Well, then I looked down and I noticed that the button was stuck down, and you kind of try to pry it up and it would just snap back down. So I'm guessing something to do with the internals on the button mechanism failed. So they had to replace that under warranty. Thankfully, the warranties are pretty good on these cars, so if you have any problems in the first 5 years, it's most likely covered under warranty. So that was replaced under warranty, but when the dealer did that, I have to say they did damage the center console, and that is still something that I need to get fixed here shortly. But when they pried apart the console, I'm not sure exactly how the best way to replace that button is, how to take the console apart. But anyways, they did damage and scuff up a lot of the plastics here, more specifically here on the inside, all along here, and stuff like that. I also did it up here next to the climate controls. You guys can probably see that right there. Now I realized taking this stuff apart is not easy to do it damage free, and I knew that ahead of time. That's kind of why I pushed it off for months to get the button fixed. But I was kind of hoping that everything would come out unscathed but it did not. But the dealership said they were more than willing to replace everything that got damaged from the repair. So luckily they're taking care of me there, and I really appreciate them doing that, because the interior on this car was almost spotless, even though it was a demo when I bought the car. You know, I took pictures ahead of time before they did the repair, showed them that they, you know, damaged the parts, and they, like I said, are 100% taking care of it. So I really appreciate them doing that. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up everything that has gone wrong or that I don't like about this car in the last 18 months. As you guys know, I've done quite a few modifications, both interior, exterior, some of them in the engine bay, and everything else has been holding up perfectly fine, and nothing really to report. So just to show you guys how many miles I have exactly, 10,901, and I'm actually coming up on my second oil change, believe it or not. So yeah, I definitely don't drive as much as other people, so kind of take that in your considerations of this review. So before we discuss the driving dynamics, let's go ahead and talk about the mods that would potentially affect how this car drives in terms of power output. So first I have the AFE closed box intake. The second thing I have is the Veloster custom axle back muffler with the valve that works. And the third thing I have is the GFB response blow-off valve. Those are the only things I have that would in any way impact how this car drives, builds boost, delivers the power overall. So those three things are, I think, the things that are worth mentioning in terms of how the car drives. So getting into how the car drives, in terms of its chassis dynamics, handling, spring rates, sway bars, the tires I have are PS4 is on right now. The car drives wonderfully. Like this, for the price point that this car sits at, this car drives amazing. I really think the changes that they did between the Sport and the N-Line helped this car excel in terms of daily driver fun. Sure, it's not quite as comfortable as the GT Sport, but I think overall this car is a great fun to drive on a daily basis, especially considering the price point that these cars could have been had at for the 2019 and some of the 2020 model year of basically like $20,000. So I really don't think, as an all-around package in terms of chassis dynamics, handling, and power output, I really don't think you could beat this car for really right around $20,000. So let's go ahead and put her in sport mode and do a little pull, why don't we? So that wasn't in manual mode. I usually do all my pulls in manual mode, but figure why not, let's do it in automatic mode. That was 18 pounds of boost for anybody wondering, and it's currently 86 degrees outside with the AC on. So yeah, so now let's talk about the worst part about how this car drives, and that is by far the transmission. Now, going back, for anybody wondering, I had the opportunity to buy this exact same car, both color and everything, either this one I'm driving now or a 6-speed manual, for roughly $500 to $700 difference. My car was a demo, so it was a little bit more, obviously, because the dual clutch cost more than the manual did. But I opted for the dual clutch because this is my daily driver, obviously, and I really didn't care to shift gears on a daily basis. Now, for anybody wondering, yes, I can drive manual. I actually own a manual car, for anybody wondering, but I really did not want to drive manual on a daily basis. That's really what it boiled down to. Not price, nothing like that. Now, in terms of how the dual clutch drives, it's definitely not a perfect transmission at all. Like, period. Nothing you can say about it is perfect. With that being said, for the category of car that this transmission was developed for, it is an economy-based transmission with some benefits of being a dual clutch. I think it drives fine for the most part. It shifts pretty quick when it's, you know, working at its prime. The responsiveness with the paddle shifters is really good when it's working at its prime. I mean, they are as quick as you're going to get in this segment of a car with an automatic transmission, let's just face it. It responds good. In manual mode, in sport mode, everything works good for the most part. Now, the problems I run into is when it's either in automatic mode and you're trying to do performance-oriented driving, or you're in normal mode and you want to do a quick pull. Say you're just driving along at 30 miles an hour and you want to accelerate really quickly, and you're just in normal mode, leave the transmission to do what it wants, to downshift on its own. The transmission really does not know what to do, does not know how to handle the situation, and a lot of times I find the car just revving up and not putting all of the power down that I know it does in manual mode. So that's the biggest complaint I have about this transmission. There's some inherent negatives to the dual clutch. Obviously it doesn't handle crawling along in traffic well, which you're not really supposed to do in dual clutches anyway. But this one really doesn't handle that well, and that's where you get that jerkiness from time to time. Also is when I'm modulating the throttle, like that 0 to 10% throttle range, you know, when you're just barely hovering on the throttle. You will feel the clutch, you know, kind of engaging and disengaging quite a bit, and that's probably pretty normal for a dual clutch transmission, so there's nothing to really fault about there. That's just something you notice over traditional torque converted automatic transmissions. But really, otherwise, the transmission overall has been doing pretty good so far in my 8,000 miles of driving. Now, like I said, this was a demo car before I got it with about 3,200 miles on it, so I don't know how it was driven in those 3,000 miles, but it's safe to assume that not everyone that drove it before me drove it correctly, per se. But outside of that, from this car, I think the power output in the 1.6 liter turbo, I mean, it is plenty for this car, to be honest. It weighs between 3,000 and 3,100 pounds. So a 1.6 liter turbo with 200 horsepower, 200 pound-feet of torque, it really is plenty for this car, and it's enough to have fun with on a daily basis. Sure, it's no Veloster N, you know, or Civic Type R, or some people would even say Civic SI power, even though I think these cars are pretty even. But I think it is plenty to have fun with on a daily basis. You really can't argue with the entire package that the Elantra GT Sport or GT N-Line was. You know, all the creature comforts you got, dual zone automatic climate control, heated seats, leather, the super nice steering wheel on the N-Line, you know, 8-inch touchscreen, full LED headlights. You really can't deny that the overall package you got for the money is just incredible with this car. And it is really disappointing that Hyundai decided to get rid of this car, because some of the stuff that I've been seeing from Hyundai as of late with the Elantra N-Line sedan, the Kona N-Line, everything like that, still doesn't, you know, give me that same emotion that this car does in terms of like looks and overall packaging and everything like that. So one other thing I wanted to note in terms of price point is you can no longer buy a 1.6 liter turbo from Hyundai for under $25,000 MSRP. That has to do with, of course, the discontinuation of the Veloster turbo and also this car. The last two cars that I know of that you can buy from Hyundai or Kia with the 1.6 liter turbo is the Forte GT and the base model Kia Optima. Those are the last two cars that Kia sells that you can buy new for under $25,000 MSRP. And I think that is a real shame, because this engine is definitely pretty stout for what it is. Again, it's not a rocket ship, but it's a real shame that you can't buy this engine anymore in any vehicle that Hyundai sells for under $25,000, because overall I think it is quite good. Oh, and the exhaust note that it puts off. Oh, tremendous exhaust note. I mean, I think I would easily put this in top 3 4-cylinder turbos that I know that the exhaust note, it's just beautiful, especially with any sort of aftermarket exhaust. So yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. I didn't want to make it longer than it needed to be because there wasn't much to report on, but I'm sure, as it always does, it turned out longer than I wanted it to be, but that's just the way it is. But yeah, there really isn't much to complain about over the last 18 months other than the dual clutch being the dual clutch that it is. The modability is great with the interchangeable parts. The power output's plenty to have fun with on a daily basis. The build quality is very good, and I'm sure it's better than a lot of the other Hyundai products just because of kind of the design, the European design it has. So yeah, outside of the electronic parking brake button failing, And the few complaints I had at the beginning of this video, I'm loving it. I mean, you really cannot buy a better car for what I paid. I hands down don't believe you can, especially in the market we are right now. So yeah, it's a little disappointing to see that prices are going up so quickly and discounts are so small right now. And I'm sure it's going to take years to get back to any sort of normal with discounts and prices and everything like that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. Also, remember my affiliate links are down in the description below for Amazon and eBay if you guys are willing to use those. Again, they're free for you guys to use, and I get a very small percentage of sales on those. So I would really appreciate if you guys use those. But yeah, there should be a video coming here in the near future of another mod here on the Elantra GT. I just have to find time to get it installed. But be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.